Hello, my name is Ashish Chavan, a student of IT Gandhinagar. I'm presenting you the story of Sir C.V. Raman and his work and efforts in discovering world-famous Raman spectroscopy, also called the Raman effect. Starting from his early life, we start the story of his journey. Sir C.V. Raman was born in Trichipalli, Madras Presidency in British Raj, to Chandrasekhar Ramanathan Iyer and Parvati Ammal. He was the second of 8 siblings. His father was a teacher at local high school. He recalled, "I was born with a copper spoon in my mouth and not a silver spoon. At my birth, my father was earning a magnificent salary of 10 rupees per month, which would be a much large amount in that times. In 1892, his family moved to Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, as his father was appointed to the Faculty of Physics at Mrs. A.V. Narasimha Rao College. There Raman studied at St. Aloysius Anglo-Indian High School. He passed his matriculation at the age of 11 and the first examination in arts, which is equivalent to today's intermediate examination or pre-university courses, with a scholarship at age of 13, securing first position in both under the Andhra Pradesh High School Board. That's great. In 1902, Raman joined the famous Presidency College in Madras, where his father has been teaching maths and physics. In 1904, he obtained a BA degree from University of Madras, where he stood first and won the gold medal in physics and English. At age of 18, while still a graduate student, he published his first scientific paper on unsymmetrical diffraction bonds due to rectangular aperture in a British journal, in a very famous British journal called Philosophical Magazine in 1906. Now let me tell you what does this mean. Here you can see is the standard image of the setup, where over here you can see the screen with 2 slits from which the laser is being passed. The slits are nothing but holes which are very small. Sometimes you can't even see it through your naked eyes. And diffraction is just a scattering of light. It's a phenomena of scattering of light. When a beam is passed through a sharp object, over there the light is incident on the holes. And on the optical screen, you'll see the band structures of the scattered light. So continuing the story of Sir C.V. Raman, he earned an MA degree from the same university with highest distinction in 1907. His second paper published in the same journal that he was on surface of tensions of liquid. It was alongside Lord Raeline's paper on the sensitivity of ear to sound, and from which Lord Rayline, he is a famous scientist, started to communicate with Raman, courteously addressing him as a professor. He was aware of Raman's capacity. His physics teacher, Richard Jones, insisted to continue his research in England. Jones arranged for Raman's physical inspection with Colonel Gifford. Raman often had a poor health and was considered as a weakling. The inspection revealed that he would not withstand the harsh weathers of England. The incident of which he later recalled as, quote unquote, "Gifford examined me and certified that I was going to die out of tuberculosis if I were to go to England." Raman's elder brother Chandrasekhar Subramaniam Iyer has joined the Indian Financial Service, one of the most prestigious government jobs in India. In no condition to study abroad, Raman followed suit and qualified for the Indian Financial Service, achieving first position in the entrance exam in February 1907. He was posted in Calcutta as Assistant Accountant General in June 1907. It was there that he became highly impressed with the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, IACS, the first research institute founded in India in 1876. He immediately befriended Ashutosh De, who was eventually becoming his lifelong collaborator. Over here he met Amrita Lal Sirkar, founder and secretary of IACS. With their support, he obtained permission to conduct research in the facility in his own time, even at very unusual hours, as Raman says. Up to that time, the institute has not yet recruited regular researchers or produced any research papers as such. Raman's article, Newton Ring in Polarized Light, was published in 1907, becoming the first from the institute. So let me show you the picture. So these are the beautiful Newton rings, as they call it in physics. The setup is pretty complex, but the basics are still from the first experiment, which was shown earlier. Raman's work inspired IACS to publish a journal called as Bulletin of Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science in 1909, in which Raman was a major contributor. In 1909, Raman was transferred to Rangoon, which is now Myanmar, to take up the position of a currency officer. After only a few months, he had to return to Madras as his father succumbed to fatal illness. The subsequent death of his father, funeral rituals, compelled him to remain there for the rest of the year. Soon after he resumed office at Rangoon, he was transferred back to India at Nagpur in Maharashtra in 1910. Even before he served a year in Nagpur, he was promoted to Accountant General in 1911 and again posted to Calcutta. From 1915, the University of Calcutta started assigning research scholars under Raman at IACS. Sudhanshu Kumar Banerjee, who later became Director General of Observatories of Indian Meteorological Department, a PhD scholar under Ganesh Prasad, was his first student. From the next year, other universities would suit, including University of Allahabad, the Rangoon University, Queen's College of Indore, Institute of Science in Nagpur, Prasannath College, and University of Madras. By 1919, Raman had guided more than a dozen students. Following Sirkar's death in 1919, Raman received 2 honorary positions at IACS. One is of honorary professor and other is of honorary secretary. He referred this to his period as a golden era in his life. Raman was chosen by the University of Calcutta to become the Palit Professor of Physics, a position established after the beneficiary Sir Taraknath Palit in 1930. The University Senate made the appointment on 30th January 1914 as recorded in the meeting minutes, quote-unquote. The following appointments to the Palit Professorship were made at the meeting of the Senate on 30th January 1914. Dr. P.C. Ray and Dr. C.V. Raman, M.A. The appointment of each professor shall be permanent. Professor shall vacate his office upon completion of 6th year of speech. Quotations closed. Prior to 1914, Ashutosh Mukherjee has invited J.C. Bose to take up this position, but Bose declined because of some reasons. As a second choice, Raman became the first Palit Professor of Physics, but was delayed for taking up the position as World War I broke out. It was only in 1917 when he joined the Raja Bazar Science College, a campus created by the University of Calcutta in 1914, that he became a fully fledged professor. He reluctantly resigned as a civil servant after a decade of service, which was described as a supreme sacrifice, because his salary as a professor would be roughly half of the salary at that time. Due to this advantage, the terms and conditions as a professor were explicitly indicated in the report of his joining the university, which he stated as Mr. C.V. Raman's acceptance of the Surti and Palit professorship on condition that he will not be required to go out of India because of his health issues. Reported that Mr. C.V. Raman joined his appointment as Palit Professor of Physics from 2717. Mr. Raman informed that he will not be required to take any teaching work in MA and MSc classes to determine his own research and assisting advanced students in their research. Raman's appointment as Palit Professor was strongly objected by some members of the Senate of the University of Calcutta, especially foreign members, as he had no PhD and had never studied abroad, as a kind of freebooter. Mukherjee arranged for an honorary DSc, which the University of Calcutta referred Raman in 1921. The same year he visited Oxford, because though he had some health illness, he still went to Oxford to deliver the speech. He had earned quite a reputation by then, and his hosts were Nobel laureates who were J.J. Thomson and Lord Rutherford. They are said to be one of the pioneers to develop the periodic table. Upon his election as Fellow of the Royal Society in 1924, Mukherjee asked him about his future plans. He replied by saying that a Nobel Prize, of course. In 1926, he established the Indian Journal of Physics and acted as its first editor. The second volume of the journal published his famous article, A New Radiation, reporting the discovery of Raman effect. Now, Raman effect is a very vast topic and will require deep levels of understanding. So to explain this concept in simple terms, it is the phenomena where change in wavelength of light that occurs when a light beam is deflected by a molecule. Now we all know that light has a wavelength, and as in form of wave, as we can see in the image. And different molecules react differently to such wavelengths. And hence, in a mixture of different molecules, one can find out the composition or the presence of a particular molecule in that mixture just by throwing light at the mixture and then noting down the reflected wavelength, which would be different from the incident one, and tally it with the database for a specific molecule. This was a major discovery in science field. Now continuing his story, Raman was succeeded by Devendra Mohan Bose as a Palit Professor in 1932. Following his appointment as a director of IIC Bangalore, he left Calcutta in 1933. Now, Maharaja Krishnaraja Wadiyar, the king of Mysore, Jamshedji Tata, and Nawab Sir Mir Usman Ali Khan, who was the Nizam of Hyderabad at that time, had contributed the lands and funds for IIC Bangalore. The Viceroy of India, Lord Minto, approved the establishment in 1909, and the British government appointed its first director, Maurice Travis. Raman became the fourth director and the first Indian director of IIC Bangalore. During his tenure at IIC, he recruited G. N. Ramachandran, who later went to become a distinguished researcher in the field of X-ray and its properties. He founded the Indian Academy of Science in 1934 and started publishing the academic journals, which is called as Proceedings of the Indian Academy of Science. Around that time, the Calcutta Physics Society was established, the concept of which he had initiated early in 1917. With his former student, Panchapaksha Krishnamurti, Raman started a company called Travancore Chemicals and Manufacturing Corporation Limited in 1943. The company, renamed as TCM Limited in 1996, was one of the first organic and inorganic chemical manufacturers in India. In 1947, Raman was appointed as the first national professor by the new government of independent India. Raman retired from IIC in 1948 and established the Raman Research Institute in Bangalore a year later. He served as its director and remained active until its death in 1970. So this was his story, and thank you for listening to me. And these are the references. Thank you.